Hi everyone, my name is Irene Herman and I work at Housing Resources Bainbridge in the Independent Living Program. I'm one of two project coordinators along with my dear friend Julie Stone. Since we can't give this presentation in person as we normally would, we made this lovely little video for you all to enjoy. And what we're going to be talking about today is, first of all, what Independent Living Program is, some of the services we offer, um, how fall prevention relates to our program, and some steps you can take at home to reduce the chance of falls. So let's get started. All right, and here we are with our first slide. Before I begin, actually, let me just give a disclaimer real quick about the images in this presentation. It's a little difficult to find universal design photos, and I did my best here to give credit to all these photos. There were a few that I could not find the original sources for, so please, if anyone watching this video is concerned about the credit given for photos, please reach out to us. I'd be happy to take it off, switch it out, give credit where credit is due. Okay, so that said, let's move forward. This is our introduction slide. I love this slide. It's from the 2016 Aging in Place report from Home Advisor, and it gives a few of the reasons why seniors would prefer to maintain independence and stay in their own homes rather than move, move into assisted living facility or what be. So some of these reasons are that their home is conveniently located. Some say they live close to their family already, say that they feel independent in their homes already, that they're familiar with their neighborhoods, and that they feel safe. And so those are good reasons why it's valuable to invest in fall prevention measures in your own home just to continue to maintain that independence. But let's backtrack for a moment before we really get into fall prevention. Let's talk about what independent living is and what we're a part of. So Housing Resources Bainbridge is the organization that houses our program. And Housing Resources Bainbridge, HRB, is a nonprofit agency that's been providing affordable housing on Bainbridge for over 30 years now. So it's an incredible asset to our community. We're located at 730 Erickson, just past Neckville, and this nonprofit houses the Independent Living Program. Pun intended. And in this slide, we say, okay, so then what is the Independent Living Program? We serve Bainbridge Island residents. This can be homeowners or people renting. It's not only specific, to our HRB tenants, although we do serve them as well. And what we do is we will address health and safety concerns in homes by coordinating home modifications for the residents. For the residents that qualify, and we're also able to coordinate referrals for additional resources if there's a project or an issue that we can't tackle in-house. And the result of our program is that we enable our residents to continue to reside in their homes independently, which is the goal, right? So on this slide, we've got a cute picture of my dad and my stepson living independently in his very accessible kitchen and living room. All right, so what does a project look like with independent living? First, you would meet with Julie or me to discuss your needs, your potential needs, or the needs of a family member, let's say, and we can help you through the application process. Then we like to work with an occupational therapist who typically would come and observe your home and give us a report with suggestions, on certain home modifications that would help the individual in each case, right? And so that gives us a perspective from the healthcare perspective, yeah. And based on that report and based on our collective, conversations, then HRB would propose a home improvement. We would hire and contract the work with client approval, right? So always working with the client through the whole process, making sure communication is clear. We oversee the completion of work, right? It is not left in the hands of the resident to monitor and coordinate the project themselves, right? And then we fund those repairs, and come and inspect the project when it's done and make sure it's satisfactory. On the right, you'll see a visual from our handout that has a couple examples of some of the projects we have done before. Okay, how can you find independent living online? So first off, you can find us on the Housing Resources Bainbridge website. This is our independent living page. If you scroll down, you'll see a little bit about some of the projects we've done before and our contact info down there if you want to reach out to us. And just for your reference, this is the Housing Resources Bainbridge homepage. Okay, so you can check out all of our programs at housingresourcesbi, as in BainbridgeIsland.org. All right, and jogging back as well, you can find us on Facebook. Our Facebook page name is Independent Living Program Bainbridge. You'll know you found us if you see our quote from one of our Bainbridge residents that we've coordinated a project for. And here in our About tab, you can also find our contact information. You can like us or follow us to see, our posts on your news feed. If you scroll down, I'll go past a couple things, but you can see some of the posts we make. In this case, we're promoting for the Senior Center their YouTube page, which has videos from their daily check-ins, which is awesome. And we have other things too. What do we have on this page? We will post any events we're doing on here, like a presentation such as this one, when we're doing them in person. And this one here, this is an example where we put a link in for the BIRD directory, the Bainbridge Island Resource Directory, which is a one-stop shop for all resources Bainbridge. So check out our Facebook page for additional resources or just to learn a little bit more about us. Okay, so how does fall prevention fit into the independent living program? Okay, hold that thought. I swear we're going to get to it. But before we do that, we're going to talk about just a couple more things, a few Washington State statistics and definitions associated with fall prevention. Okay, so hold that thought. We're getting there. There's a connection. But first, let's talk about statistics in Washington. This comes from the Washington State Department of Health Older Adult Falls. So we've got 1 in 3 Washington residents over age 65 fall each year. In 2016, there were 19,060 hospitalizations for falls among adults age 65 and over. The total number of deaths from falls more than doubled in the last 15 years, from 393, well, okay, not the last 15 years, but in 15 years, from 393 in 2000 to over 943 in 2017. And then lastly, the 60 and over age group on Bainbridge Island has increased 80% over the last 20 years. Okay, so that last statistic, I don't believe is from the Washington State Department of Health. I'll have to confirm where we got that one. All this to say that we have a segment of the population that is that's larger than the rest in some ways, and it's entering into its elderly years, right? So because of that, we have a larger number of people over 60 and 65 who are experiencing falls, needing assistance, from the trauma of those falls. This is an issue that matters, right? It matters as we see this population continue to age, right? So we want to be there to support them. Okay, so let's say somebody experiences a fall. How much is it going to cost if it's a particularly traumatic fall, right, or impactful fall? So on average, the hospitalization cost for a fall injury is $34,294, and that was in 2012 dollars. So we can probably assume it's going to cost more today, unfortunately. That information comes from Johns Hopkins University. And I want to share with you as well this link that you can also find on our Facebook page. It's a great resource for this one right here. It's an incredible resource to understand what it costs across our nation for types of aging care, right? So let's put in 98, oops, I know where we live, 98110. Um, oops, I forgot this isn't quite, let's see, does it zoom down there? Yeah. So, okay, I take it back. Let's click on Washington. Let's zoom in a little bit. Okay, so this is the Seattle area. I'm going to click the Bremerton area. And then once you've clicked your area and you scroll down a little bit, right, we see Bremerton, Washington, 2019. And so these are just some examples of in-home care, home health aid, around $6,000 per month, right? Assisted living, adult day health care, $1,400 a month. Assisted living facility, $4,700 a month. And then nursing home facilities, semi-private, $10,000, $11,000. These are just per month, right? So it's not cheap, right? All right. So how can we potentially minimize the risk of a fall? Okay. So risk factors that go into a fall, right? There are two categories. There's modifiable risk factors that we can make changes in our lives or environments to minimize the chance of a fall. And then non-modifiable risk factors, things that you can't change in your life that could contribute to a fall, right? So non-modifiable risk factors, things we can't change that can contribute to a fall, cognitive impairment, having fallen once before or multiple times before, increases your risk or likelihood for another fall. Some chronic conditions people experience, or just simply getting older, right? Things that we can change to lower the chance of a fall is an example, lower body weakness, right? There's lots of great core strengthening exercises that are even, senior specific, right? Um, that, you know, will decrease your chance of falling because you're walking strong, you're walking confident. Home hazards are other risk factors, right? Let's say you have a deck that's deteriorating and it's, important for an ingress or egress in the home. Um, let's say you have cords or loose rugs on the ground. Those are hazards. And these are things that can be fixed, right? And they can be simply, picked up off of the ground, move, replace your rug to one that has rubber on the ground. For the deck, it's a little more of a process, right? But you might need to rebuild the deck, make it smaller, if it's a cost issue, or add a railing, whatever it is. And so we're going to be focusing on those home hazards because that's what our program, addresses. And then another example, is vision problems, right? Just getting corrective lenses that, give you adequate ability to see, for example. That's just an example of modifiable risk factors. Okay, so now that we've outlined the modifiable risk factors and understand that home hazards are one of those, this is the fun part. If I were presenting in person, we'd kind of be playing like an I Spy, just popcorning, with the audience to shout out things you find that are trip hazards or fall hazards or things that are helping prevent fall hazards, right? So in this case, since we're online and there's no interactive audience, I'm going to just pause for a few moments, give you all a moment to see if you can find some of these fall hazards or fall prevention um, modifications, and we'll just see how it goes. So this house is actually from an AARP online article where this couple, Sharon and Howard Johnson, submitted various photos of their home that they intentionally, I can't recall if they purchased it or if they built it, but they purchased it, with the intention to age in place. So they were really intentional about all the universal design aspects to this home. So take a moment, look at the front of this home and find there's three things at least that I see that they're doing well as far as fall prevention. So take a quick look and I'll just jump into it then. So one thing that I see that this home is doing well that isn't always thought of when you think about fall prevention is you can really clearly see the address 421 above their door there. You can really clearly see it probably from the road, right? So in the worst case scenario that emergency services were required for a fall, then they can adequately find your unit number, right? When your address is clearly displayed. Additionally, there are no steps into the entrance to this home. There's no stairs, which is great. It looks like it's a really low threshold to enter the home, so you could likely easily enter no matter what device you might be using. And the walkway leading up to the home is flat. It looks adequately wide for a wheelchair or a walker, and there's no major bumps or anything, just a flat, clear walkway. All right. Okay, so this house is beautiful. This is a rental home. You can rent in the Hamptons. So take me, please. But all that being said, although it's beautiful, it is missing a couple things that would be helpful for fall prevention. Okay, so I'll just give you a moment to take a look at that. I'll take a sip of my coffee. Okay, so one thing first off that we saw in the other home, we can't see an address very clearly, and maybe the address is at the road, right? But let's just pretend for a moment. So we can't see a clear address. Although there are, so there's steps into the home as well, right? So that's not ideal. And although there is a railing on those steps, there's no handrail, right? There's not a railing that's easy to grip with your hand on in the case that you were in the midst of a fall, right? So there's not a handrail to grab onto easily or to just, in general help navigate the steps. Okay, so we'd like to see a handrail, we'd like to see address. And then although there's a pathway and although there are, lights for that pathway, it's not totally ideal, okay? So this pathway, right, has grass growing in between the stones. So it's not a continuous pathway, it's not continuously flat, and it's questionable whether it would even be wide enough for a walker or a wheelchair. And then on top of that, although we love lighted pathways, right, especially at night, these lights look like they also might be a trip hazard actually, because they're so close to the ground and because they're so close to the pathway. So unfortunately, lighting that you would hope would help with falls actually becomes a fall hazard themselves in this case. Okay, so those are some examples with that home. Okay, and now we're here on Bainbridge. This is the Senior Center. I love this place. Thrift shop, one of their best kept secrets on Bainbridge, right? One of the best thrift shops around. And so I love this image. It's really hard to find a good image to exemplify how long a ramp really needs to be ADA compliant. So for every inch of rise, okay, on the left side, we've got our stairs here. For every inch of rise you have, you're required 1 foot of ramp. Okay, so let's guess that this is a 4-inch step and a 4-inch step. 8 inches total of rise, which requires 8 feet of ramp. And you know what? This might even be closer to 10 inches of rise and 10 feet of ramp. Right? So when you're thinking about your home and you think, I have 5 steps up to the front door, no problem, we'll just put in a ramp someday. Think about how long that ramp is going to be, okay? That's just one food for thought, right? That ramps really do need length to be adequate. Okay. All right. This is a photo I really couldn't find the original source for. So if you know where it's from, please let me know. But this is an incredible photo to exemplify some hazards in the kitchen. So I'm gonna take another sip of my coffee, let you guys take a minute, look here for a second. Yeah, you probably already found a few issues already. So the first thing I like to note, besides, let's say the obvious, okay, the obvious is you're missing counter space, right? There's a little bit of clear counter space right here and here. But it's important to have places to, like, set your groceries down so you don't drop your groceries, for example, right? This is simple stuff, but having clear counter space is important for fall safe or fall hazards. But yeah, one thing I really do appreciate about this photo to exemplify is important kitchen utensils. Looks like cookbooks, even a hot pad here. Those are all located across the stove, right? So let's say the stove was on, you're reaching across a flame potentially to grab an item you need. Okay, so that's considered, hazardous. Um, Open cabinets, items could fall out, right? Here as well, actually in a few places, right? Um, and then there's, issues potentially of even keeping all these areas sanitary, since there are so many items in each, little nook and cranny. Okay, so this is one example of some hazards that could, be modified. Another photo I couldn't quite find the original source for, but it so well exemplifies some trip hazards. I'm just going to dive into this one rather than giving you guys a pause here. Rugs on the floor is like the biggest one. I love rugs, especially for my animals, but unfortunately they're a huge trip hazard. In this case, although there looks like there's quite a bit of walking room, there's still, some navigating to be done. And I also mentioned that, these books could fall over in an earthquake, for example, and further obstruct these pathways, right? So although you still have walking room, it's not ideal. Again, all of your surfaces have been covered, so if you needed to drop something down quickly, you couldn't, I guess, in this case, because every surface seems to be covered with something. Okay. This is another example. Lots of obvious, hazards here. More things that could fall if there was an earthquake or something. Um, but what I really want to exemplify in this photo is that there's a window here. Your second exit, right? If this door was blocked, your second exit could also be blocked as well. So keeping, a second exit in case of a fire is important. All right, and I include this photo not because there's, you know, that there are fall hazards to be found. The problem's obvious, right? This kitchen is too small to turn around in a wheelchair in, right? So in this case, this gal has to back into her kitchen and turn around to be able to unload the dishwasher, okay? And I share this photo because we've all been in a galley kitchen like this, whether, it's your current kitchen or a previous home or apartment you've lived in. So when we plan ahead for the future, it's just important to think about how those types of spaces will serve us down the line. And this photo is great. This is from that same article from AARP, submitted by Sharon and Howard Johnson of their single level home. So here's their kitchen, and this is great. First of all, they have D-shaped handles for all of their cabinetry versus a round knob handle, right? So the D-shaped handles are just easier to grab onto. You see also that right here we have a collapsible varying countertop height, right? So what's great, this couple, as they are currently, neither of them, need the assistance of a walker or wheelchair. So they're able to use, the counter in the rest of the kitchen, but they're planning ahead, saying, things could change. And if one of them or both of them eventually need to work, in a seated position, that countertop is already available to them. In addition, they have a lot of their cabinetry as pull-outs. So the benefit to that is, if you have a cabinet and it's a little deeper, right? And let's say there's pots and pans in there, rather than getting on your knees, and having to like search through to get to the back of the cabinet, for example, when you have a drawer that pulls out, all of your pots and pans, would be visible, right, from above. So having lots of storage that pulls out is helpful. Having various or varying countertop heights is also super helpful. And you can see there's plenty of room to move around around this center island here. All right, and this photo, this is fabulous. This we got permission to use this from Cabinets by Design. I believe they're out of California. And this is just such a great photo because it shows universal design. Um, it benefits everybody, right? So the modifications for a wheelchair are actually really minimal in this case, right? There is simply a lip here with this counter, right? An overhang. Okay, so it doesn't just come flush. The appliances, excuse me, yeah, aren't just flush with the cabinets or um, the space below. There is a space underneath, these drawers, the edge of the stove here, for the wheelchair to roll up under. It's not significant, right? It's not distracting from the rest of the kitchen in any way. And anybody can use this kitchen, right? Which is what I love about it. You also see appliances not too high, not too low, but at mid-range, right? And also in this case, oh, let me backtrack. But you see appliances at mid-range, right? So if you imagine somebody in a wheelchair opening a refrigerator, emptying a dishwasher, if everything was, at the floor level or flush, the appliances were flush with the bottom of the appliances were flush with the floor. That's actually too low, right? You can imagine someone in a wheelchair having to bend quite far down to look into a refrigerator that's lower on the ground, or a dishwasher, for example, or an oven. So having things not too high, not too low, but at mid-range, this oven here as well, those are super helpful and, accessible for everybody. Let's see if there's anything else to note in here. One thing I would have liked to see is a few more outlets that are a little more accessible, and maybe I'm missing them. And comment on our Facebook page if you see additional things I'm missing here. Okay, this was surprisingly a very difficult photo to find, but I love this photo because so many of us have seen, this is just a standard bathroom, right? But there's a few things that would be considered fall hazards. So take a look around for a minute. I'll take a sip of my coffee here. All right, so the first thing that we would look at independent living, as far as aging in place, or for someone who, is already having trouble possibly getting in and out of the shower, is getting rid of these glass sliding doors, right? So the concern is that, number one, because you only have half the width of the tub to ingress and egress from the shower, when you get rid of these doors, you actually open up the whole width of the shower for ingress and egress, right? So you've given yourself more room to work with, number one. Number two, on the chance that there is a fall and that this is glass, you could break glass and further hurt yourself, right? With a fall in this particular case. So big thing, first of all, independent living would suggest, getting rid of the glass doors. Let's see. Number two is, once you've gotten rid of the glass doors, you're going to need a couple grab bars to help getting in and out of the shower, right? So typically we'd have one on the outside, one possibly at an angle here. It's really specific to the person too, in terms of how they like to maneuver around the shower. So, there's always flexibility with grab bars. And then also, there's often times this is, you know, oh my gosh, what is it called? Towel. This is a towel holder. But in the case of a fall, right, often that would be something we would grab onto to try to steady ourselves. And that can be dangerous in and of itself, right? Because a shower rack, or excuse me, a towel rack is not intended to hold us up in the case of a fall, right? So making sure we have our towel racks in addition to our grab bars, right? So for their separate specific uses, excuse me. So those are the main things that we see here. In addition, of course, you know, there's no way for someone in a wheelchair to access the sink, for example, as the cabinets, you know, come straight up to the edge of the sink here, or to the edge of the counter. So we'll see a couple examples of different bathrooms coming up too. Right here, in fact. All right, 1, 2, 3, 4. What are the benefits of all of these? Take a quick look. What are they doing right? There's one thing I could see them doing better as well here. Okay, so number 1, they got rid of those shower doors. Yay. And imagine, you know, that there's a shower curtain, right? So we would always put a shower curtain in, so you're not just standing there, you know, exposed to the world. So imagine a shower curtain there. That's also standard. Okay, so number 1, we've gotten rid of the doors, and there is a shower bench in there to allow for number 1, easy transfer, right? You can just sit down, swivel your legs in, or, you know, you can get in with the use of the grab bar here, also doing well, and then sit down, you know, for your shower, so you don't have to stand the whole time. Number 2, this is an adjustable shower head, okay? So what that allows is that if you are in a seated position for showering, you can lower that shower head. Or let's say you want to, you know, stand up, and in this case they have 2 shower heads, but if you only had one, if you wanted to stand up, you could raise it and take a shower standing. All right. Number 3 here, they don't have cabinetry below the counter. So it allows for a wheelchair, you know, to roll up and under. I did mention that there was something, you know, they could have done better, and what I would like to see is the mirror extend all the way down to the sink so that someone in a wheelchair could view themselves. Okay. And then lastly, number 4, sorry, number 4 on the ground, it's clear floor, right? So there are no rugs creating fall hazards. Although what I might recommend would be right outside the shower would be to have, you know, a gripped shower bath mat, right, or rug, so that you know, any water dripping off of you when you get out of the shower is at least contained there. So that would be one thing that would be helpful as well. All right, and then here, this is just a beautiful way to integrate, you know, universal design into a bathroom in this case that everyone can benefit and enjoy from, right? So we've got the roll-up sink here, again, a vanity area here with space underneath, and even the second sink has space underneath. So they've really anticipated for all these spaces. And then you can see over here on the side, this is a walk-in shower that you know, come in from, turn around to come in. So walk-in showers are, you know, if you can do it, definitely ideal. All right, coming back to local here. This is Coffee Oasis in Kingston, one of their bathrooms. And I just loved it. I was just super impressed that they too have the sink, you know, with a accessible for a wheelchair to roll up to. Got the grab bars, lots of space to turn around in this bathroom. Again, this mirror could come down lower to the sink itself, but otherwise they're doing a great job. I would say too, possibly these, maybe not the soap, but the paper towels are probably a little high. But you know, we're halfway there, right? Okay, and then this is great. We are working as Independent Living to acquire more photos of our finished products. But this is a successful project where we took a combination tub shower and then, made it into a walk-in shower with the help of some amazing local contractors. So you can see, and I apologize for that little thing popping up, but this lip here, this lip, or the threshold to the shower, is very minimal, okay? Although you do have to slightly step over it, so you can't just roll straight in. Lots of grab bars available. Imagine there's a shower seat right here for showering. Excuse me. And this was just a really, successful project for us. Okay, so we've gone through a bunch of examples. And now I'm sure you're wondering, what are all the things you could do to your home to do the best to prevent any fall hazards that there are? So the Home Fit Guide from AARP, this is an amazing guide that they update every few years here. So we have this also on our Facebook page, and I'll find another way to share this here. You'll definitely want to see the full guide, but we'll just share a few photos from this guide that would be helpful for anybody. So is your home fit, right? So these are just some of the things we've already talked about, some of the things that you may have even thought of while we were looking through some of these photos. Excuse me, just took a sip of my coffee there. So, right, is there at least one step-free entrance into your home? We were looking at the front door entrances, but this could be in the garage, the back of the home, as long as you have one way to enter the home step-free, with few encumbrances, that's definitely helpful. Is there a bedroom or full bathroom and kitchen on the main level, right? Could you exist on the first floor alone? Are the interior doorways at least 36 inches wide? Okay, ADA standard is 36 inches wide. Does your kitchen have a work surface you can use while seated, right? That was something we discussed. Are there fire extinguishers readily accessible? Can you easily reach your kitchen cabinets, right? Can you access all the things you want to access? Lever type faucets are preferred because you don't need to, you can more easily adjust the temperature with those, right? If you use a step stool, does it have a non-slip surface, right? Are there secure handrails on both sides of your stairs? Are your hallways well lighted? Are your stairwells well lighted? Exterior walkways? Are your exterior walkways free of tripping hazards? We touched on almost all of this really. And so this is a checklist, right, for you in this home fit guide to assess your own home, right? So you'd just be checking off these boxes if you have these things, maybe circling them if you need them. And a lot of these are pretty easy fixes. For the bathroom here, right, making sure that your water temperature can't exceed 120 degrees, right? That's helpful to avoid scalding or hurting yourself. Sometimes raising the toilet, right, can make a huge difference. Adding a grab bar right next to it. Of course, making sure your electrical appliances are not strewn about or creating trip hazards. Again, when you have these dual faucet handles, when you simply have one lever, it's easier to control the temperature and minimize scalding again. All right, so I'm not going to go through all these. I'll just kind of let you take a glance at it. But there's all these little things that are easy to do, right? Here's a couple things. Okay, we've been talking about the lever faucet handles. We also, I think we might have mentioned, levered handles in general are just easier to open, especially if your hands are full, for example. The rocker style switches are also just easier. The D-shaped handles, as opposed to the round knobs, are easier to grip. and a no step or compressible rubber threshold, right? To help if you were in a walker or wheelchair to roll on in more easily. These are some things you can do yourself. I won't list them all, but just an example is installing night lights in your hallways and your bathrooms, right? That's just helpful. If you get up in the middle of the night, you don't want to trip. It's more easy to do so in the dark, right? Applying non-slip adhesive strips to uncarpeted stair treads, or if we're talking about a bathroom, adding a gripped bath mat on the floor there. Right. I won't go through all these. I'll kind of just let you take a look at them. But again, it'd be so helpful to look through the Home Fit Guide yourself. And then I shared this last page just to say, there are some things that are best done by a professional. So take a look at this list, and then also when you're hiring a contractor, there's some general guide for steps you can take to make sure you're getting the right contractor for the job. All right, so if we were in real life, we normally try to do prizes for people who come to our presentations. So just keep that in your back pocket. If we go live again in the real world someday soon, come join us at one of our in-person presentations and maybe you'll win a prize. Thank you for joining us today. I hope it was helpful. And please, if you have any questions at all, don't hesitate to reach out. Feel free to reach us by phone, by email, message us on Facebook, whatever is best for you. And we will get back to you. Okay, take care. Stay safe out there.